Wendi.
Hi, Charlene.
Hi. So we're here with Wendi Blum, the author of Your Life, Your Destiny. She's also a success and strategy coach, a speaker, is it an NLP certified instructor,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
She's got a lot going on, and we're here to talk today about success strategies, which ironically is also the name of one of your courses that you teach, right?
Yes.
One of your workshops that you teach.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what had you, the name of your company is called Success Blueprint.
Yes.
What had you build a business and revolve basically your life now around coaching people on success and how to get there?
Well, it's a great question, and I'm so incredibly passionate about it because I went through my own transformation over 5 years now, 5 to 6 years ago. And I come from the corporate world. And so I had been in sales, I'd been in management and leadership, and I had a pretty good profession. I did pretty well for a couple decades. I know I'm really dating myself, but for over 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry. And then I just felt something was missing on the inside. And that's when I launched the brand of me, and not having any idea, any background in entrepreneurship. I was kind of feeling my way, but what I did do was I married and I mixed my experience from the corporate world and the tools and techniques I knew worked and worked well for me in that world, and then I brought them into the world of owning your own business and being a heart-centered entrepreneur working on my own. And so what happened is when I launched my coaching practice, initially as a health coach, I filled my practice quickly and was able to make it profitable from the very beginning. I had so many people then come to ask me what strategies and techniques I was using, and so that's when I decided to teach the success strategies and principles.
Excellent. Excellent. I love how you blended it all together and drew from where you had been to create what you're doing now. That's really amazing. In that process of your journey to get where you are now, can you talk about some of the personal barriers that you came up against?
Oh.
Right, I'm sure the list is, really long, but in the course that I'm taking, that's what we're working on is, looking at what are those personal barriers and starting to explore. It's something that's lifelong, but starting to explore ways and tools and techniques to help you not only uncover them and see them, but then how to continue to not be stopped by them. Because it's so easy to just move them out of the way temporarily, and then as soon as your inner critic, or some people call it your gremlins, start to creep back in, then it's hard to keep them away. So can you, maybe your top 3.
Okay, all right, my top 3.
Yeah.
Well, initially taking the hat of being an employee, and taking that hat off and putting on one that says CEO.
Right.
So that was a big shift. So that's a shift in the way that you think. And so being a CEO and being responsible for everything, as you know, right? So I would have 1 or 2 responsibilities as an employee. So I would be responsible for sales and for customers and for customer service. But now as an entrepreneur, I was the creative director, I was the salesperson, I was the accountant, and so I was wearing all those different hats. So, so transitioning to wear all those different hats and then be able to then delegate.
Right.
So once I got all those hats on and realized I couldn't wear all those hats, it just wasn't doable for me. Then I had to then hand the baton to somebody else with trust and faith and build a team and then let go of some control. So here you haven't had control like this, you have all the control, and then you have to learn to delegate. And so that was very difficult for me, because it was this vision that I had aligning with the right people. Also, too, starting out in the beginning and still running into challenges with this, that now I have a larger team. I work with several consultants and I have employees. And so being able to sometimes make a tough decision when you know it's not going the way you want it to, and sometimes you have to move on. So you have to replace people. So because you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yes.
Right? So that was very, very challenging because I would think, well, you know, I have an assistant. And so I really need this person. They're my right-hand person. So I really don't know about retraining somebody new and how much time. I don't have time right now. So I'll just keep this person a little bit longer when you know it's not working out. Right? So I would say that those have been my, top that I would actually just kind of call out in the beginning.
Your biggest challenges, yeah. And it's funny, not funny, but in the past, basically 2 years since I've really been enthralled in this, it's like you named my top 3. That's exactly what I'm dealing with. And I'm always I want to create that rapport, I want to create that relationship with my team members, and at the same time, it's been coming up a lot lately, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and and I think I can say with confidence that I'm not as worried about that, but there have been times, in the past year and a half where I have had to, and that's been probably my biggest challenge, other than the other obvious shifts that I've had to manage. So we already kind of touched on the that self-sabotage thing that happens, but I know for me it's very prevalent, and I know some of my classmates are also challenged with their confidence or lack of confidence getting in the way of, can I really do this, and all of that chatter that goes on. Can you maybe talk about some techniques or even quotes or any sort of resources that you talk to your clients about, or your workshop participants, or anything about how to keep that self-sabotage at bay?
Well, obviously that's a big one in every area of our lives, and in business, right? The little voice that says, I don't know, it's really tough, can you really do this for the long haul? And so one of the techniques that I teach in goal setting is to take a goal. So, to have a successful business, that's a guerrilla goal, and really break it down into really small bite-sized pieces, and to really theme out your year, each month, and really have like one specific goal that you focus on every 30 days. And then take that goal and then break it down even further. So, when you think about doing something for 30 days, that still can be overwhelming, right? Can I really do that? Yeah. Especially when you're launching new projects and you're enhancing and evolving what you're doing. And then breaking them down into even smaller bite-sized pieces to just one single day. So that confidence for just that one day, because we can do anything for one day, right?
Right. 1 minute.
Yeah, for 1 minute, right? And that's being very present and mindful and aware, and then setting the tone for the day first thing in the morning. So where most of us would write to-do lists, more about the being list. Who do I want to be today? So today I choose to be confident, and I choose to be courageous, and I choose to be a leader, and I choose to have clear communication with my team, and I choose to accomplish all of my priorities today. So just to take it and break it all the way down to just one single solitary day, because then when you achieve success for that one day, and let's say it's a day where your energy is kind of off, then I would use tools or techniques like, for example, I'll start the day by doing something charitable and giving back. So where it's not about me, where I do something for somebody else, where I take the focus off of that and move it to something significant that's going to make a difference to somebody else.
And then that fuels you.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, pick up the phone and call a client and say, how you're doing. I was thinking about you. I just wanted to send you good thoughts. I know you're working on something very specific this week. And so that just shifts the energy a bit.
And I love that when you say a being list instead of, because it's when you choose that way of being, when I've done that in the past, consciously or not, when I reflect on it, I realize that being is actually what had me get the doing done.
Yeah.
It actually, when you're being courageous, then, those things that you had to do that you were afraid of aren't as scary anymore, especially when you break it down. I really love that because, they have this mile-long to-do list, and it's so hard. Oh, what do I do I got that, I got that, I got that, but to break it down and spend the time to keep breaking it down and keep reevaluating, right? I would think that would be super important, because you could have the greatest list in the world, but if you don't keep reevaluating and looking at it, then...
And also take your list. So if you have a list of 10 things, and then cross off, prioritize them, and then cross off the bottom 8.
Right.
And just focus all of your energy and fuel 100% of your energy on one thing at a time, because what we do is we sprinkle our energy because we're working on 3 or 4 or 5 things at one time. We're multitasking. Right, to do less of that and more of all-out participation and focus on one thing at a time.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And it kind of ties into what we just said, but in regards to specifically to time management, so once you do break it down and you set your intentions and you are clear on what your big, I love that you said guerrilla goals are, and then you've broken it down into bite-sized pieces. Can you give some ideas on ways to either avoid procrastination, or, there's so many pitfalls when it comes to time management, but what do you find people are most challenged with? And then how would you suggest that they stay away from those pitfalls? Can you tell us a challenge for me?
Yes, for sure, right? Because there's so many things that come to mind.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost is to actually keep track of time. So to have some sort of tracking system in place. Now, what I do in my home office is I actually have an hourglass. So I use hourglasses. So I have an hourglass. I have one that's 60 minutes. I have one that's 30 minutes. So I work in blocks of time. And then what I do is I'll work 100% on a project, really basing my time around projects. And so I'll work for a very specific amount of time and then take a break so that we can refuel. And whether that's getting a glass of water or whether that's a stretch break, whatever it is, actually taking a break. Even if you're working at home office, doing jumping jacks or something to really break things up, you want to break your state and then come back to it. And then as far as distractions, so you have certain rules in place. So for example, you check your email at 3 specific times throughout the day. So if you're checking your email all day long, you're going to be distracted all day long. So then when you go back to your project, you're only putting 75% in because you're thinking about an email that you just got that you have to answer. So if you haven't opened the email, then you won't have the distraction. It won't be taking up,
And the same with your phone,
that energy,
right?
the phone.
Yeah.
So you turn your phone off. You let it roll into voicemail. So, and you don't check your text messaging. So you do that on the breaks.
Right.
So whether you're doing it in 30-minute intervals or 60-minute intervals based on whatever you're working on, and then use that to check, respond, and then go back to your project.
I love that. I really love that.
I've had to learn it the hard way, for sure,
right.
because I was so distracted. Facebook is social media. First thing in the morning, so because you want to communicate with your community, it's so important to engage. So first thing in the morning, I'll spend, not first thing, I'll do some other things with goal setting and intention setting, that sort of thing first. So it won't be first thing in the morning, but there will be a delegated period of time. It'll be 15 minutes in the morning, and then right before I go to bed, after I'm done everything for the day, that's kind of my unwind time where I'll connect and communicate. So if you're 15 minutes in the morning and then you're 15 minutes in the evening, you've just spent 30 minutes on social media. Right. So that's a good deal of time, right? And also look at things like, am I spending my time or am I investing my time? And ask yourself that question throughout the day. So in everything that you do, that's the question that comes up. Am I spending my time or am I investing my time?
I love that. Definitely going to have to put that front and center of my monitor. Kind of swinging back to, you had talked about how your personal experiences shaped where you are now. As you went through that part of your journey, you said like it was about the past 5 years or so. Can you talk about a couple of the specifics when it came to attitudes and perceptions and that sort of thing about either business or yourself that you saw transform in that time? You know, like really.
Oh yeah, I definitely think. Okay, so one would be fear.
Okay.
So fear kept coming up for me, right? Because I really had lived most of my life, right, avoiding situations that would bring up fear, right? So I would stay completely in the box and really in my comfort zone. So then to get through that to the other side, and so that I could start thinking creatively and out of the box and getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, I had to take baby steps. Right? So every day, say, what can I do today that is going to take me out of the box, right, and out of the comfort zone? So it would be like even small things. It would be starting out like just driving a different way home, or making a phone call that you've been putting off. It's just like really small things to start that process in place. And then as that grew, as I gained some confidence and said, okay, I survived that, I did it, you know, then I would become a bit more courageous each time. And I even, like, you know, for speaking, for example, it would be like speaking in front of a group of 5, and then 20, and then 40, and go, okay, I survived that, you know, and just kind of stretching to your edge, right to your edge. And then you have a new starting point the next time. So that was really helpful for me. And then doing some other things that were really non-related whatsoever. I really have a passion for yoga. So certain things in yoga I would be like really fearful of. So even in a yoga practice, trying to pose, that was intimidating for me. So that was really helpful in breaking through that process. And it's ongoing,
but it is,
right? It just changes.
It doesn't ever
just wears a different mask.
Right, exactly.
Right. So fear for sure, and wanting to be safe, and knowing that I am safe, and that even a mistake, for example. Certainly I've made a lot of those, right? But take a mistake and then reframe the way that I think about a mistake, and that's information. That means that way doesn't work, and so now I've grown, and I've become a better person, and I'll approach it a different way the next time.
That's so great. A lot of my team members will, you know, they'll fret when they make mistakes or they do something that didn't work, and our entire employee manual was written out of all of the notes that were left for people. Don't do it this way, you need to do it this way. And we wouldn't have known any other way. You know, this was new for all of us, so that's great. I really love that. Specifically in your coaching, either one-to-one or in a group setting, can you highlight maybe 1 or 2 tools that you leave people with? I know you've got success strategies, you've got total success, you have some other workshops. I know they're all basically revolved around different angles of, you know, being successful. Is there any favorite tool that you have that you usually?
Oh, I have so many. So first, thinking and wearing the sales hat, that we all, regardless of whether we're a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, a CEO, doesn't matter what we do, we're always selling ourselves, right? And our brand is always who we are, and to think of that first and foremost. And so to think about it as in your messaging, that sharing. And the exercise that I teach is really to ask yourself these 3 questions. Who can I help? What can I share? And how can I make a difference? And so just to say that right before you pick up the phone. And it even works in just influencing like family members or business partners or whatever you do in life. So when you come from your core, like your core values of why you do what you do, it, even as a mom, like, you know, why you're a mom and why it's so important to you, and to really think about selling is more influencing and helping. And we all have so many gifts and talents and uniqueness. And so to share it out in the world is so important, and we're always holding back from our messaging because it could be aggressive. But if you're coming from a place of really helping and supporting, then it's your obligation really to share that. So as a strategy, to always be wearing that hat, and so it's a safe place to be. You know, and one that can be a lot of fun too. So it's actually fun while you're building your business. It's actually, you know, it actually brings joy.
And if you're really clear on your purpose and your mission, and you know why you're doing what you're doing, that's going to be conveyed in your communication. It's going to come out,
Yeah, because people can feel you. Right?
Exactly.
You can tell them anything, but people can really feel your energy. They know. And then another thing that comes up that's so important, and so I love teaching this in business too, because I have an underlying, you know, spiritual theme in all that I do in business, and that's to use the power of visioning, visualization. So to see yourself successful, to actually step into that role. And so one of the exercises is to take a very successful business person, whoever that would be. You know, that could be Richard Branson, for example, or that could be Oprah. And close your eyes and you step into that person. And so those traits, confidence, compassion, power, that you close your eyes and you step into it, like you borrow it from them, so to speak, in using that visualization process. So that's a technique and tool that I'm really passionate about.
That's excellent. That sounds really valuable. Well, I want to do that. In conclusion, I wanted to talk a little bit about a quote that I see in a lot of your literature and on your signature on your email address, and that's it's never too late to be what you might have been. And I know that's a central theme. I know that it was very prevalent for you, having literally shifted gears, you know, and what some people would say, oh, it's too late, oh, you can't do it at that age, that sort of thing.
Late in life for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So using either that or anything else that you might like to leave the people with today?
Yeah, well, I am really so passionate about, regardless of your age or your circumstance, your marital circumstance, your financial circumstance, none of it really matters. And to be true to yourself, true to who you really are, and that it is possible. And that's why I really didn't plan or set out to be a speaker or to be in the public domain the way that I am. But because it's so important to get that message out there, so we see somebody once they've already achieved success. And so often when you follow the backstory, although they've been working on it for a number of years, Usually, for the most part, it had been for 10 or 20 or 30 years. So if you look at somebody really super successful, you think, well, gosh, I don't have that many years. How can I do it? And so that's why for me, being in my 40s and now in my 50s, to be able to really hold that space, that it is absolutely never, ever, ever too late. And so we're going to live until we're in our 80s or 90s and who knows how much longer. And to know that the second half of life, that can be where all the magic is. That can be the sweet spot. And if so you haven't gotten to the place where you want to be up to this point, that you can change all that, that you can shift all that, and you can live an absolutely extraordinary life.
That's perfect. So your website is wendyblum.com, Wendy with an I.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And your events and your workshops and all of your products and books can be found on there, and some really great videos that give a little glimpse of you and what you do. Right?
And I have lots of free resources also. I'm really passionate about getting out as many tools and resources to the masses so that they're available so people can change their lives.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much, Wendy. I really appreciate your taking a slice of your very busy life to do this with me today. It really means a lot.
Yeah. So, and I so appreciate you, Charlene. And so thank you for having me.
All right.